Good evening, Teach Better family. Brad Hughes checking here from Ontario, Canada, and I'm excited to be connecting tonight with one of our featured speakers for Teach Better 22, Dr. Neil Gupta's in the space. Dr. Neil, how are you tonight?
I am great. I am excited to actually finally be able to talk and share and tell everybody I will be at the Teach Better conference in October. This is great.
We're so excited you said yes. Dr. Neil, so much value that you add to all of your spaces. Looking forward to digging in with you tonight to your perspectives on leadership, on service, and about what's making you excited for our upcoming conference, Teach Better 22, coming up in October. Dr. Neil Gupta and I will be back right after this message to entice you and to excite you about the upcoming conference. Dr. Neil, I am trying to get the video clip to work.
It's all good.
Fantastic.
So right now, I want to know if you're ready to teach better.
That's the whole mission of this weekend.
Just being here ready to learn and grow and come together like this is awesome.
What are those small changes that can make you better tomorrow than you were today?
All the amazing speakers we have here, wow.
So we have a ton of people here who are published authors, who are writing about education.
Let's get out there and teach better.
Good evening again, everybody. And while you're here, let's get in here and teach better. We're getting in here in our Teach Better 22 preview space with featured speaker, Dr. Neil Gupta. Neil, for those who haven't met you yet, can you let us know who you are, where you are, and all of the incredible things that you do?
Absolutely. So I am in Columbus, Ohio, and I've been serving in school districts all around, I guess, the Ohio area. Recently or currently right now, I'm in Worthington Schools. It's about 10,000 students. I serve at the district level as the director of secondary education. So I oversee the middle schools and high schools in the district. I also consult with Creative Leadership Solutions, and I've been doing that now for a year and just been excited to be able to coach and work with administrators and others from basically around the United States.
Dr. Neil, I know that family is such an important part of your life and commitment. Tell us about your loved ones and tell us about what's exciting you about the contributions and the things that they're experiencing right now.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I'm so glad you actually asked me this question because I could just boast about them nonstop. So my lovely wife, she's a nurse. She works on oncology. So she works in the hospice area. And it's just a neat dynamic to be able to see my wife kind of flourish in an area of, helping families in that really critical time. I've got two boys. I've got a 21-year-old junior in college at University of Dayton who people respond obviously in different ways to pandemic. And during the pandemic, he started out being home and making awesome pizza. He made homemade pizza for me and wanted to kind of figure it out. And then he graduated towards smoking all kinds of meats, briskets, and all that kind of stuff. And then it was like, let me go get my real estate license. Let me go figure that out. And he got his real estate license and sells cars and things like that on the side. And I could go on and on. Just proud of kind of the man that he's becoming. My other son is 17 years old. He's a high school junior. And the kid is like, I don't even know when he's around sort of thing. He's highly social, highly motivated. Don't have to ask him about grades because the kid's just on his own, doing his own thing and making sure that he's doing the best he can. It's exciting. But the neat thing about that is back when he was like 13 years old, I was starting to take him to conferences with me. And I had this early in my mind of like, why don't you just kind of see what dad does? He'd take some pictures for me. He'd help me put handouts on tables, greet people and that sort of thing. And I said, just watch, because someday we might co-present together someday. Well, actually, at the end of this month, he and I are co-presenting on restorative practices. So it's something that obviously that's near and dear to me in my day job at work. And I thought, is there some kind of, a district administrator who in theory is supposed to know a lot about educational work and what you do with students? Does that translate into the home? And so he and I are co-presenting at a conference at the end of this month. And what I love about this is that like, we just came together to talk. Like he said, let's not be so tight about like what we're going to talk about. Let's almost walk in there and, kind of just talk, like make it a dialogue, make it a conversation. And I think what the audience is going to see is I'm going to come in and I'm going to say like, this is the way you need to do it. And he's going to come back and go, actually, I don't like it when you do it that way. We students would like it better if. And I think that conversation that's not staged, and it's not like, oh gosh, like everything's beautiful and perfect, but sometimes the best of intentions from one is not always the other. And how do you have this dissonance that kind of still works together to say, let's try to figure it out and make it work?
Dr. Neil, so much is coming to mind for me. I'm so excited to continue our chat. I want to ask you about restorative practices. And you mentioned the pandemic. I know we're still continuing to work, live, serve, and just survive a pandemic. Do you think restorative practices might be an essential antidote to the stress and to the community displacement that the pandemic has resulted in our communities, especially our school communities?
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of where this was born from. And I would even say it was happening a little bit before the pandemic started, at least for me and in our school district. But it was this notion of, really, to be honest with you, I grew up in a house where we really we didn't talk about feelings so much. You didn't talk about those things. You just did what you were supposed to do. And when you messed up, you knew it by a look that was given, and you just shaped up, sort of thing. And, I look now at our students, and I think about kind of, how relationships have to be fostered. And I think about that, but I also think that there are times when harm happens, and it could be from a classmate to another, and it could be accidental. I think our students are trying to sometimes figure out the world, and they may say something by accident that steps on the toes of somebody else, or like I said, a teacher, and a student may need to have some repair of relationship that has to happen. You might have to address the issue, but sometimes we don't have those overt conversations on how do you repair and reintegrate back into that school community. And so, like I said, it's no different than what happens necessarily at the home. You realize that we still have to love each other, and we still have to figure out how to make this work to make our house happy and harmonious. Well, that's the same thing that has to happen in a classroom. So I definitely think there's some pieces to that. As I've been kind of on this journey, I guess in the past couple of years, kind of unlock that and help bring that to our staff and our students.
I can see so many opportunities for home and school to enhance and to grow in capacity, to really to seek to understand the stresses that our young people are experiencing. And I'm just really fascinated by you and your son coming together as co-presenters. I wonder, are you used to sharing the stage with others, and do you share the stage well, Neil?
Yeah, so I think now I'm at that point where early on it was, I would have probably said, in a polite way, I would have said no. I like to be up on stage, and really what I mean by that is because it's easy to plan when you're by yourself. But I think that recently in the past couple of years, I actually have been gravitating towards involving other people to come into the conversations. And what I most appreciate about that is because I'll come in from one lens and I'll look at a certain topic or strategy, and others will come in and bring a different depth level to it, which is just amazing. And so obviously the pre-planning is a lot more rich, but at the same time, there's relationship that comes along with it. So for example, actually Ray Hewart and Caitlin Giordano and I got to co-present virtually for one conference, and Sarah Johnson and Megan Anderson and I presented at another conference together. And I'll say that I was the ringleader of writing saying, let's do this together. But I'm so glad that I did, because, through, like I said, those conversations of planning for a presentation, you come to appreciate and respect educators like the ones I just named even more. And, it just makes it that much more rich.
When I think of how we as school leaders coach teachers and educators to make a shift from a transmission, the sage on the stage, you listen, I present, you listen, I expound, you absorb. I think that shift to co-presenting is such a really such a helpful strategy to really shift from transmission to conversation. I'm wondering what in particular excites you and keeps you energized about the opportunity to interact with audiences.
I think also it's this idea, and it's kind of like right there, this message that I think in my own leadership journey has been, this farther together phrase or logo that I have is born out of an African proverb, and it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And really, that's my leadership journey. Like, I thought leadership was based on you go alone, you forge ahead, and you just go, you keep moving. And I would say that I'm going to say, out of some of the pitfalls I ran into, some of the roadblocks that I got into, some of the failed things that happened kind of in my leadership journey, they all came down to this aspect of a lack of collaboration, a lack of bringing people along through the journey. Like who cares if you're blazing this trail if there aren't others that you're not just bringing along like 10 feet away, but that they're alongside you, and sometimes you're helping to like let them be up front. So and it's not just because presenting at conferences, Brad. Like what I'm also appreciate, and I've just been thinking about this is, and recently I've had the opportunity. This is this hiring season, right? So a lot of interviews, a lot of screeners with pre-service teachers, college students that are seniors getting ready to graduate in less than a month. And, I look at it as my job, my goal to, not just interview them, but I'll say at the beginning of the interview, like, hey, I might like time out and I might give you feedback on your question. And please don't look at that as like, oh my gosh, like that means I just failed. And, Neil doesn't respect me anymore. Or I didn't get the job. I said, we're all here to help each other. So I promise I won't. I need you to recover if I give you that feedback. I need you to recover and not take it to harm or anything. And I've done that. I think a number of times where people have said I respected that, and that actually made me feel better because nobody's given me that feedback before. And I think about that. They are seniors ready to graduate, and nobody's given them that opportunity. We've got 2 students that are graduated from our high school, and they're now seniors in college. And it's my personal mission to help them find a job. Like I am my hope is that they'll come and work in the district that I work in. If it means that they're working somewhere else, I mean, it is one of those where I want to see them enter the workforce and be their cheerleader. I mean, I look at my role that way these days.
I want to ask you about where you think the role of professional learning and really engaging professional learning might be as we reckon with teacher shortages and we really coming to terms with the fact that the pandemic has revealed that great people may have a variety of options when it comes to work and contributing. And so it's so important to both attract and retain the educators we have. What might be the role for engaging professional learning in helping educators reconnect with the why of their teaching?
Well, I think that's why I like working with Teach Better, and that's why I like working with Creative Leadership Solutions, is because I think we all realize that true, the true work that we have in our jobs isn't that you come in, go on stage and present, and then you fly in, you present, and then you fly out. Like that doesn't work. That's not what leadership is. And so, for this Teach Better conference, I'll tell you, I was at a different conference a couple years ago when the Teach Better conference was going on, and the pictures. I was on my Twitter feed and I was going through FOMO because I was looking at and it wasn't just here's who's on stage, and it wasn't just like here's who I'm getting a picture alongside, but people connecting and talking with each other, outside of the actual presentation time slots. And so I think that our work, if we really think about professional learning, it is this idea about relationship. Like if we think about that in the classroom, it's the way along with each other. I think, for example, our educators who are burnt out, I marvel at sometimes they say I just want to go home and Netflix binge. And there are times where you want a Netflix binge. I appreciate a good Netflix binge every now and then. But at the same time, I tell people don't just get in your car and go home. Like, spend some time after school with your colleagues and go out and have dessert or have a beverage or something like that, or stay after and go walking together. But there has to be this relationship that kind of comes into it. And so sometimes that relationship are the people that are around you. And sometimes that relationship are people maybe, from another place that you may not see on a daily basis face to face, but you might know them virtually. And they're people that you respect and have the same core values and beliefs, and you can still have that type of relationship with them. So like I said, I'm heading to Teach Better in October, and these are people I've never met before face to face. And I'm so it's going to be like bear hug. It's going to be like, high fives. And it's just going to be this, I already know I'm not going to sleep when I get there. It's like sleeping will not be even part of the equation. I'll do that later.
I know that developing and championing strong school cultures is a professional priority for you. What is it about school cultures that you think really needs to be enhanced, or really needs to be a priority for school leaders and school districts as we emerge from a pandemic, maybe with a reimagined understanding or vision of what schools can be?
So I think COVID taught us one thing, a couple things, but one thing that I think that we got to make sure we stay on is, we used to, I think, ask each other questions prior to COVID on how are you doing, and it was a quick answer of good, bad, yes, no, whatever, one word answer. And with the pandemic, we've all taken time to slow down to ask the question and actually provide some vulnerability or transparency, or spend some actual time talking about how you're doing. Brad, you did it with me, and you just said, talk to me about your family a little bit. And, I'm bursting about those things, and that kind of comes to life. And so I think that one thing that to build that idea of culture is, it isn't always about going straight to the work and thinking that we can't invest time in building those relational things. So, I will, as I'm observing my principals, for example, I always make a note to say, as I want to affirm to them, if I catch you at the beginning, watch this, if I catch you, which sounds weird, but at the beginning of your staff meeting, and you're doing staff shout outs, and you're doing these icebreaker things, I love it. Don't look at it and go, oh my gosh, this is getting out of hand. It's going from 4 minutes to 5 minutes to 7 minutes. And what's Neil gonna write about on my evaluation?
Yeah.
That's building culture. That's building relationship. And we have to be in this positive asset minded, mind frame of investing time in that will help you with your literacy curriculum. Investing time in building relationships will help you in looking at attendance and graduation rate later on. And so I think that the culture comes from how are you intentionally relationship building in meetings and outside? If the principal just goes to their email addresses and sits by their computer and just has email all day, that's not going to work. So how are they helping to foster teachers collaborating and connecting with each other? When they do that with each other, they're going to do it with kids. It's just going to help penetrate everywhere.
You've declared, Neil, that 2022 is your year to rise. And I've also heard that we rise by lifting others. Something I marvel about is your consistent positivity and positive energy that practically radiates. So a couple of questions. How do you keep yourself and your energy sustained? I know family is one connective aspect, but how do you sustain the energy to help others rise and make 2022 the year of rise for Dr. Neil Gupta?
For me, it comes down to, finding your professional learning network. And I still am amazed at I think that that's a simple phrase, and people that get it, and people that don't, I don't know how else to be in a place to say, people will say things oh, you're on Twitter, you just tweet, you're what. And if you don't get it, if all you think of it is tweeting out and kind of whatever, I could see that feels like a waste of time. But through those, I'm able to kind of create this network of people that again share those same core values and beliefs, and they bring that positive energy, and it's this iron sharpening iron kind of thing that comes into play, that you kind of we all get tired. It's not about that. Like, and it's not about, the toxic positivity that's coming out there. What I think is important is this idea of, I'm tired, and you have this place, a safe place to go to share, kind of like, I had a hard day, I had a bad day, something's frustrating me, and somebody's empathetically listening, going, yeah, I get it. That's tough. Okay, now let's get back in the game again. And so, through different social media tools, there are two guys that I text with pretty much, I think, almost every day: Paul Erickson and Jeff Veal. Paul Erickson's in Kansas, Jeff Veal's in Texas. And I think I've met them only like 2 or 3 times, like in my life, in the past, 7 years, I think, or whatever, that I've got to know them, or probably it's been 9 years now. But I talk to them every day, every day. And to the point where there's a Voxer app. It's a walkie-talkie app, and you can hear voices. My wife has never met Paul, but she knows him by voice. And she'll say, "You must be talking to Paul right now." And she said to me once, "I don't know what you do when you go into your home office and you're on that Twitter chat for an hour, or you're talking to somebody for an hour, but when you come out, you're a much happier person. So we miss you for that hour, but we love it because the next 12 hours you're like, you're a person to be around." And so I think that investment of time and energy and effort is infectious. Put yourself around people that, not saying that they'll always tell you that there's rainbows in the sky, but you can feel real with. And then they can also then tell you, like, okay, it's time to get back in the game. And you need that. You need both of that.
If you're just joining us, we're chatting with Dr. Neil Gupta, inspiring educator, champion cheerleader, leadership developer, and featured speaker for Teach Better 22 this fall in October in Akron, Ohio. Dr. Neil, I'd like to dig in with you about your work with ASCD, Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. And I'd like to know how you and your professional practice has been changed and influenced through your interactions with other educators in that role.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was, I started teaching in 1998. And I remember that our math department, of about 10 teachers in our math department at high school, our department chair got the first educational leadership journal. He got a copy of it for that month, and he put a slip of paper on it. I think this is illegal. I don't know if this is even allowed for me to say, but put a slip of paper with all 10 of our names on it and said, "Pass it around and check your name off, when you saw it, and pass it around." And I remember getting it and reading it and going, because after college, if you had to wait for the next teacher in service, like what's in between? There's nothing in between. Like, what do you do? I didn't know. Nobody had told me, like, life after college and professional learning. And so, like, I got this journal and I'm reading it, and I thought, someday I'd love to go and meet a person. Like, in my mind, I thought, I'm going to sit in this room of 10,000 people, and I'm going to sit in the back, and I'm going to get to see from afar, one of these presenters, just to say I did, because I respected them so much. And, over time, it was, okay, like, this is just the part about me is, like, I think that's where you start to have that vision. And then I don't just stop at vision. It's like, okay, how do I get there? And it was, okay, so let's figure out what the steps are to get there. I went to a conference, and then after a while, you kind of start, talking with people, and, started presenting at the conferences. And then you kind of go, well, guess what? Those people have to, they're people too. I can go up and talk to those presenters that have written 40 books. Dr. Doug Reeves has written over 40 books. And, I said, I can go up and have a conversation, right? I can have a conversation with him. And, just so gracious to be able to talk to. And, I can't say I've read all 40 of his books, but just to be able to sit in the same room and have a conversation with him, and that he remembered who I was. And then, by the way, he's on a Twitter chat, the following week, and, getting to build that relationship with him. So over time, he just like I said, last year asked me to join his consulting team. And I get a weekly email from him, and it's just amazing to be able to have some conversation and talk with him. So, presenting at conferences, he and I got to co-write an article together. Earlier this year, we wrote on the engagement illusion. So it was an article about how, there's illusions that are out there that sometimes that you think are true, but they might be false. Well, the idea of engagement's one of them, is that sometimes you might have students in your classroom that are faking it, and sometimes they're doing it on purpose, and sometimes they're playing school. And you sit there and go, okay, how do you kind of, pull aside kind of that veil to say that's an illusion? What does true student engagement look like? And so that practice of him and I being able to co-write that article is definitely a highlight for me.
It's absolutely going to be a highlight, Neil, when you and I get a chance to meet. And I'm expecting a bear hug when we meet in person in Akron, Ohio. And I'm wondering what among the incredible opportunities for Teach Better, if you can pinpoint one or two things that you want to make sure that everyone that encounters you leaves feeling or knowing or doing, what would you say that might be?
I hope they realize that, like, there's conversation afterward. Like, I hope they come away inspired, but I hope it's not just, he came in and there was fireworks, and then, like I said, then afterwards you go back to work on Monday and, things kind of come down, because they're going to, hopefully not on Monday, but they're going to come down. But then instead of it just coming down and going, well, gosh, I got to wait till do I have to wait till Teach Better 2023 for the next time? No. There are people that will love and care about you. Like, I hope you don't just go, like I said, I hope you also, the ones that attend, also realize you're going to lose sleep. You're not just there just to go and attend and go attend sessions and fill up your head, but go in to also go like, regardless of where I think I am right now, I'm going to fill up my heart, and I'm going to walk away with these relationships that are going to come out of it. They'll be long-standing.
To get knowledge to the brain, we have to go through the heart, and you are absolutely a heart-led leader and an incredible educator. I've so enjoyed getting to know you better through our interactions, both on Twitter and other social media, and the opportunity to chat with you, Dr. Neil, tonight is just a personal highlight. How can people get connected and stay connected with you in anticipation of meeting you at Teach Better 22?
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Twitter at Dr. Neil Gupta. I also have a blog and a website that is farthertogether.org, and you could check that out. And I haven't written a blog in a while. I've got a couple in my head that are getting in there. Just need to get through that presentation with my son first.
All the best to you and family, and in good health and continued success in the meantime. Until we meet in October, Dr. Neil Gupta, thanks for a wonderful evening of conversation with me, and all the best to you and family.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Neil, and thanks to all of our listeners and viewers. Find out more, teachbetterconference.com. Look forward to connecting with all of you in our Teach Better family. In the meantime, until then, it's Brad Hughes checking out and wishing you the very best. And thanks again, Dr. Neil.